This is called I Want a Poem. I want a poem that holds me in its arms like a father, unafraid to hoist his fat-cheeked daughter to his shoulders. A poem with muscle, with lean legs that can walk all night in the cool of the desert, that will show the way when I need to leave my hearth of familiar things. A poem willing to hold the rare blue moon in one hand, the blood-red moon of eclipse in the other as we keep walking. I want a poem that grows as I grow, that knows the teenage boy within me who thinks he'll never die. Take this middle-aged woman to drag races on country hardtops where the cops don't patrol. A poem that drinks acceleration and sex for breakfast without getting burned by either. Rocket poem, I'm tired of obeying the laws of physics, the compulsions of biology. Send me out past gravity, where I can surf the aurora borealis and dolphin at the prow of Earth's magnetic shield, the ocean of cosmic rays washing across my face. Then fly me to the moon, yes, but not to linger. I want to know the politics of Mars and Jupiter, the death grip of Pluto with his twirling twin, and the fiery, ice-clouded heads of comets returning to the sun. Don't make false promises that you'll bring me home. Find me a new living among the stars. And I want a poem that makes it safe to dwell in the universe of my own body. Show me how to trust the black hole at the center of my heart, portal through which spirit radiates to every molecule. Teach me, poem, again and again, how all light comes from darkness and emptiness is always full. And when the envelope of learning has been stretched too far, I want a poem that will feed me cheese and pomegranates and make me laugh. That's lovely. You don't have to clap after each poem, but I have to say I like that. This second poem is short and a brief explanation about New England history for those of you who may not be familiar with it. Back in the 16th, 17th, 18th century, the colonists here had a unique way of allowing dating. The pilgrims, what's the word I want? Not the pilgrims, the Puritans, thank you. When one family would go visit another, the teenage kids would be bundled in sheets by their parents so presumably their hands couldn't move. And then they'd be laid in the bedroom, which was usually cold. That's ostensibly why they wrapped them in sheets. And then this board would be put down the length of the bed between them. And so that the boy and the girl, the teenage boy and girl, could get to know each other, and presumably there would be no hanky-panky. I don't think that was probably not effective in lots of cases, but there's a reference in this poem to the bundling board, so I just wanted you to know what that was. On our backs, like two teenagers separated by the bundling board, we need our sleep, so do not touch, except for two hands, small animals quivering with silk bellies in the dark. You drift first, the cords of your fingers wrapping mine with little jerks of sleep. Tethered, we rise and fall on your snores, the thubbing of hearts. Blankets float among our bodies, hot, pillows mounded up like snow. And then the last poem of mine that I'm going to read is a political poem. It's called Salute. And I wrote this two years ago for an alternative Flag Day that was celebrated on Amherst Common, hosted by the American Red Cross and the American Friends Service Committee. Showing an alternative look at Flag Day. Salute, not to the little flag of empire, but to old glories of earth and sky. Honor to our sun, which flies from daytime's pole without our help, and at dusk is folded by the stars. Not to the little flag of single-minded thought, but to colors of the many, inspired by leaves, each joyful on its mast of bark, hot green in spring, flying sunset in the fall, all humbled as humus by winter's hand. Not to the little flag of checkpoint borders, but to banners of cloud and air. For who can separate our weathers from their weathers, our lungs from their lungs? Not to the little flag of greed's war, but to white pennants of surrender, allegiance pledged to giving back stolen fields, stolen children, stolen ore, stolen waters, stolen women, stolen paychecks, stolen countries, stolen hope. How much shame before we hoist compassion's cloth and together make an oath to peace. And now I'm going to read one of, thank you. This is Jim's book, Crossing the Bar. And the theme of his book very much is the metaphor of pole vaulting, which is a great passion of his. He coaches track and field for Pioneer Regional High School in, is it Northfield or? No, in Northfield. So, yeah. Yeah. However, this is one poem that does not directly allude to pole vaulting, but an awful lot of his poems do. And the cover is actually of a man running up to the bar here. So it's called In Magnolia, and there's a dedication that reads, "For my sons. When I was 25, we hiked the grass, spare trails that snake from ocean to Swan Pond. My two small crab catchers and me. We buried pet turtles at sea beneath the crooked footbridge, sailed stick regattas in the slim stream in the slow woods, bouncing like great explorers of Kettle Cove and sea-slashed rocks, listening to each other's breath. We trudged home, sand-fed." Thank you.
My name is Ed Rare. Man mows the field. Tucking grass in for approaching winter, his dirt knows him, his rusted machinery, his slurred step. It sleeps with him when not in the field amongst kith and kin. Sometimes they share thoughts over breakfast, how the weather moistens them on their way to work, one to beat back the weeds, the other to feed them. It's all the same, it just needs to be done. As they march off to the day's day, green hair from the field's angel inches up. Dead for centuries, even his winged bones are restless. His fingernails hold back the tree's urge to crawl off to a nice woods for a nap. Work lives everywhere, never having to commute or even to say, "Hello, now get to work, all of you." Dead angels. First they die of the usual causes, then boredom. But this takes only the head and the left part of the heart. In angelic doctors' terms, cephalic semiventricular demise. Next, their sleep suffers. They dream of sheep singing to their shepherd, of sunburn on the slopes. This is called the second death, le petit dormi, or sunsetus, sunset. After this, the defunct angel sprawls out, taking on the patience of things, a button's holes, a rock's beard of dew, the joke's long ladder to the cliff's edge, or leap's sudden gravity. This is called being there until Wednesday. Dead angels. Okay, and then the bunch of sort of seasonal poems. Some are outright lies because it says January still no snow or winter without snow, but what can you do? Winter without snow. For the fish, it was business as usual. Bald men with empty beer cans and dead worms. Rescue wore black merit badges. Reckless sleep, cooking with explosives too, and knots for nothing. Slot A and tab B quivered. Traffic flocked. The question came due. Do snowmen get sunburned for being well thought of? Are their necks donatable upon demise? And who would know? January and still no snow. Naked of green, the field is brown as bread crust, lifting off with its crow. At the lawn's edge, small upheavals mark the mole's labor. He's waddling his galleries, tickling grass roots and coddling a bellyful of creamy grubs as he goes ho-ho-hoing along. Against all odds, a crow has come for the skunk carcass. The skunk does not care. He has left everything, stripe, appetite, and the job of picking up after the world. The crow tries again, this time upwind, walking like an undertaker who has discovered bingo late in life. This one's about more demise here. Over and out. As if Earth had never happened, we live on a snowball pitched low and inside, a slider when a curveball was due, and the cosmic catcher is thinking of retirement and how incestuous water is, how begotten snow finds tentacles in its melting places, how sunset's orange stain paints the last whale's belly. The record shows the apocalypse started Tuesday and was done by Wednesday noon, in time for lunch with leftovers. By tomorrow, hell's curator will be snowshoeing for stragglers and busted angels. He looks like Santa stuffing his sack, looking for in the window, his breath, a mix of frozen peas and crusty grandmothers. And now for the very end. The end was postponed again. A shortage of plague, delivery problems with brimstone, pestilence was out sick, and Calamity must get some sleep. All around the garden, rabbits can be heard sharpening teeth, tightening springs. All we can do is wait. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susie Patla. It's called The First Time I Had Sex. The first time I had sex was with Michelangelo's David. Though he wasn't my first naked man, I had seen what hung between my father's legs when I sat talking to him, the mist of his shower rising up as he stepped out and dried what looked to me like the old brown pipes behind the John. And it really wasn't David's plumbing that made me love him. Something in the way his hand rested light but powerful on his outer thigh had me longing for how he'd touch me. Most people looked at him head on, but it was his sideways glance over the shoulder that slew me. His brow puckered in the sexiest question. His eyes, full of a thunder that rumbled outward, picked up my virginity and carried it off. I was helpless before the understated muscle of his arm as he lowered me gently to his bed of skins, where what we did fought off all the Goliaths of his time and mine. So this poem, which I actually was planning to read because it's about my youngest son, who is probably about the age of a lot of students here, although I don't think there are many students here, but I will read it. It's actually probably more connectable for parents. Anyway, a couple of things I'll just say about it is sometimes I feel with my kids, and particularly this child, this son, that I've known them in some other lifetime, that we have some other connection that's way before this time. And so that comes up somewhat in this poem, works in and out of the present. It's called Fire. His body, the last one I gave birth to, is stretched out on my couch, his leather jacket covering him as he tries to sleep off too much Guinness from the night before, when his girl returned to say it was over. Something dark has entered me, unfamiliar, a new room in the house of grief, where heirlooms hold memory of a time before he and I were born. A place where night is black around a small fire, and we sit, our words quiet, before the noise of wood snapping into flame. He calls on Saturday, and as the walls of his apartment echo behind him, I listen until I feel heat on the side of my head, and that old fire crackles while darkness looms around the light we build together, log upon log, weighted by pain as gravitational as ground, summoning us to shoulder what must be borne until the day we wake up and realize it is gone. Beyond the fire dances fear, coyote, her eyes a wildness. She circles me the moment he admits that only those who love him stay his hand from self-destruction. I seat the phone on its holder, hear the click of its placement as if my ears knew only how to listen. Again and again, I witness my breath coming in with his pain, going out to surround him, pulling through me something which is his, something he knows and doesn't yet know. In the dark air, sparks rise like constellations. So the last poem I'll read of mine is, I do some amount of political work in this strange world that we live in, but this poem is, I think, an effort to deal with the difficulties in the world in a slightly personal way, in a physical way. It's called In the Country of Your Body. Be a lightning rod, a tall tree pulling brightness down into the thick gift of soil, where underground death labors to compose itself and become life. Have your spine reach to sky, your breath be a wave that draws back, then rolls thin foam to the shore. Let each thought be a thrush that sings clearly and is gone. Pull down galactic light, spread it onto the ground of the world, down roads of unbearable error, in Santiago, in Kandahar, in Baghdad. Let it boldly climb the steel towers of trade until light, freely offered by the stars, comes into you, as it did long ago when you swam through your mother's gate, still wet with a trace of being whole. It's always fun to read somebody else's poems when we're up here. But I'm going to read a poem of Jim's. And just one thing I want to say about Jim is that he comes from a long, close line of Irish family, hard-drinking family. And one of the wonderful things in Jim's book is his way of finding poetry as a way of giving up alcohol, but also reaching back to his family. That's a big part of this book. So this poem is called The Fear is Real Poetry. The fear is real poetry, like some wild horse chained to his stall, just ripped out the post and chewed on the links and got free and burned down the barn, so he could see the moon dance, an Irish amazing reel, and ran and ran and ran until the sweat poured like honey and the wounds cleaned the tired Arabian trail. That's what this honesty tells me, rip out the post. And I never knew my father's loneliness, and I never knew my mother's fear, although I wore them like hard saddles. There's plenty of time to die. Stones on the road, shattered glass. Thanks. Jim's.
It's called Witness. Where Maine meets Federal, two young Mormons stoop to speak with a dwarf standing on the sidewalk. He kneels. As I drive off, the blue-suited missionaries are down on their knees. The dwarf is sitting. This one is called Just One Step. I'd love to waltz into a seamless Strauss Blue River, lose myself in a steamy Cuban rumba, feel the Big Easy Zydeco vibrations, rip through an Astor Piazzolla predatory tango. Were I to lift you onto this makeshift stage dappled with stars, could we still dance as when lust and luck shaped our days? We could enter this world through the measured silences of a stately pavon, move again as one. This one's called the High School Reunion. Our class clown helps a drop-dead blonde out of his tomato-red XKE into a sea of abrupt silence. Our yearbook, no better than a Ouija board. None of us became Rhodes Scholars. Barely recognizable, the senior prom queen, flabby former quarterback in tow, circles around the gymnasium smiling majestically. Lights turned down, we dance to a pickup group's limping big band sound, the rotating faceted ball showering us with bright-colored spots, nostalgia mixed with old gym smells. Later, when I search out my 10th grade crush, our conversation centers on names. She says she never forgets a name, unless she wants to. Then for a second time, asks mine. Those of you who write know what writer's block is all about, and this one deals with that. It's called drawing a blank. There's an epigram at the beginning, a quotation from I.B. Singer that goes, "The wastepaper basket is still the writer's best friend." Today, the same blank page, whiter than usual, extra virgin, divine inspiration stuck in a holding pattern, childhood pools dredged. I conjure cold baptismal drops, like the wine, feel the wine-wearied breath of a fatuous cleric, but nothing sticks. 3 hours, 3 Nicorettes later, I thwunk my cud at the mocking white sheet, ball the two together, drop a 3-pointer into the half-filled Singer file, waiting at the end of the room. I don't think you can write in this area without being influenced by the environment, the rural nature of things. This one's called Moses-like. All the elements are here. Simple wood-framed white house snugged up to a large red barn. Stand of bare sugar maples lining the road. Their long early morning shadows lead into silhouettes of sleeping Morgan horses standing in the sunlit snow. Rows of pasture fence ground the picture. Bitter cold chimney smoke rises straight up, my hands deep in pile-lined jacket pockets. From the barn's louvered cupola, ramps of pigeons burst out, wheel, and return. American primitive? No. A contemporary New England landscape after a storm. The family sleigh replaced by a blue Kubota tractor. Red triangle dangling from behind the cast-iron seat. A tall blond boy tosses flakes of hay into the paddock. Blue light flickers in one farmhouse window. This one's called At 21 We Were All Beautiful, and an epigram at the beginning of this one attributed to W.C. Fields. Ah, youth, what a crime to waste it on the very young. Feeling like shit, my right leg still wrapped in its surgical sausage casing and propped on a white plastic chair, I watch from the porch as two runners breeze up the trail in the nearby woods, the low morning sun catching their handsome faces, red and blonde ponytails bobbing. As another set of perfect teeth flash over the rise, my depression slips into something more clinical. With great effort, I reach for a sweating can of beer a scant foot away, only to have it slip through my fingers. This one's another somewhat local scene. It's something I picked up on a lunch in Northfield. It's called Babe Magnet. Two young waitresses laugh uproariously, but the face of their 80-something, square-jawed, farm green coveralled regular remains immobile. A tire pressure gauge sticks out of his shirt pocket. Some kind of metal therapy bracelet encircles the wrist of his liver-spotted forearm, thrust through a worn shirt cuff. He sits at the counter delivering God knows what sort of lines to these maids in waiting, who eat up all he doles out with rapt attention, smiles and chuckles. When one of them peels off to deliver plates of eggs over easy, French toast, or home fries to the other end of the counter, she returns quickly, looking on while our sage works through his griddle cakes, sausage, and multiple cups of black coffee. Brushing past him to get to the register, I'm hit by the acrid smell of grass silage. Notice his green rubber boots. He catches my glance and turns an easy smile on me, his roguish, light blue eyes set in their weathered bezels. I think of my dark green 28 Model A Ford lying idle for over a year, and that day it sprang to life. This book is an eclectic mix of actually 4 different forms. The free verse I've just been reading, plus some tanka, senryu, and haiku. Tanka predated haiku by about 700 years. It's a lyric form. It's a little bit longer, 21 syllables rather than 11 or 12. I'm going to read you a couple. Emerging from the hot tub into moonlight, bodies glistening like silver trophies. Fingernails dug deep into my sunburned back, ignoring the pain of summer's passing. Your black cat at the foot of the bed, purring softly, my hand on your thigh, searching for echoes. And here's one of Jim's. It's called Above the River. I believe we're all breakable old bridges, black paint and rust, hiding behind dirt roads, boarded up, unraveled, with longing looking down on some crazy river wild and driven. So when you brush past me and honor my shoulder with your small gift of a hand, because you just can't not, all the sins of all the people who never touched me right seem forgiven.
It's called Father Pina Said. Father Pina said the sky was full of angels. I did hear wings, sometimes voices, but no one had poured water over me. No one had taught me the prayers. If God were to choose one of us to receive him as we knelt, colored light modeling us like minnows, it wouldn't be me. Still, the air was a room hollowed by his breath, so when Father Pina said, "Let us bow our heads," I peeked. Was it a joke or a miracle, the pigeon fluttering in the rafter of the hot chapel, mine the only eyes raised to see? And then also, Our Lady of Guadalupe is very popular out in the Southwest, and so I wanted to read a couple of poems that I wrote out in New Mexico. This first one's called Ceremonial Breakage. At Chaco Canyon, I spread my fingers, comb the wind. I am a solid object. Hours are chunks of sun tumbled from the yellow cliffs. The day, a knot on a rope, tying me to the horizon. Drinking, I spill 3 drops. Moments later, I'm not sure I believe in water. If I stand still, the sky seeps into me. If I run, lightning leaps, unburied from the ground. City upon city, and underfoot, time fragments, pieces I toy with, laying this edge to that, as if they are merely evidence of a pot, instead of a sure sign that I kneel here, the ridges of my fingerprint catching in the hollows of another woman's touch. My fingernail a stylus releasing the song I know by heart, that sang us both into being, the song of the baby strapped to the carrying board, clay gouged from the canyon floor, corn beat with stones, arms open to strangers, turkey feathers plucked to make a blanket for the dead. 2 snakes mark the land, and in between, loneliness and obligation, brittle love, cumbersome water. We lift the bowl, let it drop. One of the things out there about the shards, which you're not supposed to pick up, they're not only are they sort of a sacred object, but they don't belong to us. They belong to the native tribes that have lived there. But there are so many in some sites out there that it's like those driveways out on the Cape, if you've ever seen those, that are all just shells. And as you walk across them, you just break them up even more. It's a strange phenomenon to feel yourself doing that. And a theory that archaeologists have is that, well, there's 2. One is that when those people were chased out of their cities, they broke everything so their enemies couldn't have them. But another is that there was a lot of breakage that went on as part of ceremonies to give objects to the god, because ownership was not part of their culture as it is ours so much. So I have another quick poem from out in New Mexico. Actually, I have 2, and then I'll read Jim's. This one's called Looking for a Landmark. Looking for a landmark. I thought I was in love with a red mountain, but it was hard to tell. There was a man that kept getting in the way. He loved me with flashy inventiveness, raw flair, but he loved tequila more. We bought a 12-pack in Bernalillo, drove toward the same mesa all day. The beer made us thirstier. We kept forgetting where we were, names on the map not even translated out of Navajo. In our pockets, shards we weren't supposed to keep. And then this one's called Caldera. A caldera is a big volcanic crater. Judy said, "Get in the truck bed," our hair rising, lightning so close I could smell it. She was married to a man I'd loved once. Her niece crouched with us, motherless from cancer. All afternoon we had spiraled a fist of rock, listening for bobcat. If you meet one, the guide had said, you'll have to fight it. Running's the worst thing you can do. By the time she came back, we were bug-eaten, rained on, elation carrying us into the open, where elk tried to gallop past thunder. Panic, ecstatic, a line in me reeling toward them. And then Jim's poem that I'd like to read is called My Nana. Jim grew up down in Springfield, and so some of the geography in this poem is from down there. My Nana sat rocking in her bedroom window with her rosary, and I sat on her pillow lap, and we would watch the traffic light change up on Myrtle Street Hill. I would believe it magic, that red, yellow, green chant, and the Holy Mary, Mother of God, while in the distance, rogue headlights rolled across Chicopee River, and sometimes late bomber engines woke me from Westover, ready to flatten Russia. Pray for us sinners, my old fat Irish Nana with greasy paws clutching the round wooden beads, now and at the hour of our death, her voice quiet, raspy like stars. Amen. Thank you so much for coming.